of justice is freedom, and for Democrats, the heart and soul of justice is equality. And Republicans will support policies that promote freedom, and Democrats will support policies that promote equality. And I used to believe that. I mean, look, we have our view of what makes for good government, and Democrats have their view of what makes for good government. We just sort of emphasize differently. Well, number one, Republicans, they lost their way too. We overspent, we played cozy with the special interests, and we tried to play the power games to stay in power too long, and the public got sick of us and threw us out. But watching the Democrats, I have realized that it's a little bit more sinister than just valuing equality. There are some unhealthy currents in their policy preferences. A couple of the highlights from this last session will illustrate it. In the middle of a recession, when clearly what everyone is worried about is jobs and their economy to recover and us to sort of get back on our feet, the first big action out of the chute is a slate of unconstitutional tax increases because the Democrats think the government needs that $250 million more than struggling employers do, more than mom and pop convenience stores, more than carpenters and builders and plumbers and people trying to make it in the private economy. But worse than that, at the same time, they're saying, well, okay, we're going to build the economy, we're going to create jobs, and they're passing their job-killing tax increases. They're also passing their renewable energy mandate. Now, if I talk about the renewable portfolio standard, has anyone heard that before? Several years ago, Colorado passed Amendment 37, said we're going to get 10% of our electricity from renewable energy. Windmills, solar, you name it. Okay, that's 10%. Then the Democrats take power, they double it to 20%. This year, in the middle of a recession, with people struggling, they raised it again to 30%. 30% of our energy portfolio, they say, has to come from renewable energy. But not just their green utopia that makes utilities more expensive for everyone, they also loaded it up with special favors for their base constituency labor. They said for a project to qualify as a renewable energy project and to satisfy this standard, 30% of our electricity has to come from renewables, the project has to, and then they had 6 pages of labor regulations. All kinds of state licensing and state approval and maximum ratios of workers and journeymen and apprentices. So while they sold it to the public as green energy and renewable energy, what they were really doing was funneling a big chunk of our economy, of our utility expenditures, to organized labor. Okay? That's just rewarding your friends, right? But it's slowing down the economy, it's making it harder for us to come back, it's making single mothers struggling to pay their electricity bills have to dig a little bit deeper for their friends in organized labor. What makes it even more challenging is that now one of the biggest constituents of the economy is the public sector labor union, state employees. When Bill Ritter ushered in his executive order that said state employees can organize, he added to the largest segment of labor, let me say it this way. The labor movement is declining in the private sector. It's only about 8% of private sector employment now, but it's mushrooming in the public sector. Ask yourself, what kind of sweatshop conditions exist in public employment? Why do state and federal employees need organized labor representation? They don't really, but now there's this vicious cycle. Majority Democrats support the public employee unions with more taxes and more spending and higher pay for public employees. Public employees, including the teachers union, support Democratic candidates because they'll vote for higher taxes, higher spending, and more labor. So back to my little back and forth with Ken Gordon. Republicans want freedom, Democrats want equality. Democrats want more than equality. They want to shove a vision of someone's enlightened choices down your throat. Where you get your energy from. Keeping your kids strapped in car seats up to 8, 10, 12. Next year it'll be 12.
16.
16. Yeah. Well, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I just want to keep her locked up at home. But apart from that, all right, I feel the vocal cords starting to go, so we're going to have to get to Q&A pretty fast here. But my point is this. yes, they're overplaying, they're overreaching, they're plundering our economy, they're rewarding their friends, private sector, but particularly public sector, labor unions, and the public is starting to notice, and the public is ticked off. But the Republican Party has not demonstrated itself as very trustworthy stewards of our tax dollars or our liberty. I don't want my freedoms kicked by a donkey, but I don't want them trampled by an elephant either. So that.
Oh, yay! Hey.
So that's where you all come in. We all come in. The Tea Party movement, the 9/12 movement, just people that are pissed off, people that are mad as hell. We need to be engaged, and we need to identify candidates and support them. Now, I'm here to tell you, good luck finding a Democrat that respects your liberty. But don't just assume because someone has an R after their name, they respect your liberty either. Get involved. Vet candidates. Choose. Support strong pro-fiscal conservative candidates, pro-liberty candidates, and stay involved. Friends, we're mad today, we're mad tomorrow, but public opinion doesn't last forever. Let's make hay while the sun shines. One more quick illustration. On his deathbed, a cowboy tells his grandson that the secret to a long life is a spoonful of a spoonful of gunpowder on your oatmeal every morning. Grandson takes granddad at his word, puts a spoonful of gunpowder on his oatmeal every morning. It works. Grandson lives to the ripe old age of 96. He leaves behind 4 children, 16 grandchildren, 32 great-grandchildren, and a 30-foot hole in the wall of the crematorium. What does that have to do with anything? Here's what. Steady effort applied consistently over time will produce results. We don't know when. Hopefully in the next election. Hopefully in the makeup of the next legislature. Hopefully in the courage and backbone of the politicians that get elected. And if not, you keep there. You stay on. Keep sprinkling your gunpowder. So if they want to worm out and vote wrong, they feel your displeasure. Woo! They stick with the principles they ran on. We're engaged today, but to make a difference, we have to stay engaged tomorrow and next month and next year. We have Congress and the state legislature and the governor's office to take back in November. But 2 years later, there's a presidential election. 2 years later, the U.S. House of Representatives is still up for grabs. The U.S. Senate is still up for grabs. And no guarantees for your liberty if Republicans win, but a pretty damn heavy-handed agenda for your liberty if the Democrats win. So that's sort of my semi-pessimistic, semi-optimistic hope for the future, is that we all go out and kick butt and keep kicking butt, and that I stop talking now when you ask questions. Yes, sir.
The Democrats have actually got a book written citing Colorado as an example of how the Democrats can take over an otherwise conservative state. Do you care to address the methodology?
Yeah. Actually, okay, he said Democrats have a book written. Actually, I'm going to correct that. It was Republican State Representative Rob Whitwer and 9 News reporter Adam Schrager. They wrote a book called, what's it called? Okay. We're gonna rest my vocal cords for a second. Man, stand up and describe the blueprint.
Blueprint, as Senator Mitchell pointed out, was written by former state rep Rob Whitwer, Republican, and 9 News reporter Adam Schrager. What that book does is describe in pretty good detail the methodology used, the organizations put together by the so-called progressive side. They organize this network of groups called the Colorado Democracy Alliance, funded primarily by what are colloquially known as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Tim Gill, Pat Stryker, Jared Polis, and Rod Bridges, 4 multi-millionaire radical left-wingers that are throwing their money to change the shape of Colorado and change the color of Colorado. They've been very successful since just before the 2004 election cycle. It's a whole network of groups. It's not just the party. It's basically a privatized political infrastructure existing outside the party. It includes things like Colorado Ethics Watch, one of the most misnamed organizations on the face of the planet. It is CEW, pronounced Sioux, it's what they do. Their whole point in life is to put up bogus lawsuits and campaign finance complaints against conservative candidates and causes to attempt to sling mud, divert resources, try to dominate the debate, and oh, by the way, maybe once in a while win a case. It's not about winning the case, it's about slinging the mud and tying people up. Their media arm, called the Colorado Independent, their media, so-called media watchdogs, Colorado Media Matters, which, by the way, just folded up shop. Plus a whole bunch of other networks, 527 groups, political attack groups, union organizers, all this kind of stuff, all networked in together. This book really lays out how they were able to do that and why that's important looking forward over the next several cycles and what we need to do to start countering that.
I'm going to add just briefly to that, because you're not going to take a multiple choice test on the blueprint after this discussion, but I think to distill and summarize, the blueprint reflects that far-sighted liberals pull together three things: resources of motivated donors, a network of organizations to do media comment, to do web blogging, to do political organizing and recruiting, and patience. They're not just targeting the next election. They're targeting the climate. They're targeting the kinds of things that get fed to newspaper reporters. They're in it for the long term, and for us to take back some ground and to push back, we need the same thing. Whether it comes from a few wealthy, motivated donors or from everyone, and more likely some of both, we need resources. We need organizations, informal like this, informal like 527s or 501c6s, or you name it. We need structure, we need resources, and we need patience. Back to patience. Perseverance. You got to stay mad. And not just mad, you can be happy too. Yeah.